Good morning, everybody. Thank you for showing up here at office hours. One of the things that is extremely important, it actually kind of quasi started this February, and we wanted to make sure that everybody um, knew about the change and what it actually entails. And what we're going to do is just kind of go through this process of new email requirements and actually getting them delivered and reducing your spam. So, back in, I think it was October of 2023, Google and subsequently Yahoo came out and said, hey, all the time you've been sending out emails, we've kind of allowed you to send emails however they were, but now things are getting very insecure. So we want to place some rules. So we're going to go over those rules today and deal with some of the setup that has to actually happen. So we'll go through that. For those that don't know me, my name is Mark Steff. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve and your host for today's office hours. I've been in the business for 33 years. Spent a lot of time helping real estate agents understand technology and doing the things that we do here in Realvolve, and that's just setting up the automation and doing the things. So this really kind of goes hand in hand in there. Like I said, for today's agenda, I'm going to go over the new rules for that were really pressed by Google, and then Yahoo followed through with the same type of thing, some required setup, how to send compliant emails. We'll go over some help and some premium service questions as well. For those that have not attended the past office hours, maybe you want to see some of the old previous office hours. We've got several of them. You can go to realvolve.com/office hours. It normally shows the most recent one, but there is a little menu in the video area where you can pick and choose other ones that you can review and see yourself. So let's talk about the requirements and what this actually means, because it's actually very significant, and we want to make sure that everybody understands what it is. I'm going to use a lot of acronyms and terms that may not make sense, and certainly if you want to stop me and say, hey, Mark, I don't understand this, certainly do that. Some of this is just technical jargon for to confuse the minds of those that aren't technical. I honestly believe that's why they do some of this. But we're going to try to demystify it somewhat and actually go through the process. So there are certain acronyms, and I really don't need to necessarily go through all of them, but one of them is set up your SPF and your DKIM email authentication for your domain. And we're going to go through kind of what that looks like, that process. So let's not spend a lot of time in there, but that's one of the requirements. You have to set up this email authentication piece. Ensure that whenever you're sending emails, sending domains or IPs are valid forwarding and reverse DNS records. And it's also referred to as the PTR record. So some of that setup that we do as part of step one, we actually handle that piece for you and making sure that that's done. Keep spam rates down. Really, Google says it has to be below 0.3%. That's pretty significant, which means you shouldn't buy lists. You shouldn't buy names and things and then just send out emails to them, because doing that really causes you some challenges. It can also cause us challenges. So we crack down on that here at Realvolve. If you're sending out emails to a lot of people and those emails start reporting that you're spamming, you could lose access to Realvolve. We take it very seriously, and we want to make sure that people are not spamming unknown people. We'd call them victims, but in this case, I know people have bought lists at times and wanted to send it out. Most of the time, those lists are junk anyway, so you really don't get the benefit of whatever you're paying for them. But the bigger consequence is it can put nicks on your scoring for any outbound emails that you're sending, and that can cause you not just Realvolve, but Gmail, Google, Yahoo, some of the other providers will actually count that against you and will stop emails from going through from you. So just something to be very cautious of. Format of messages according to the Internet Messaging Format Standard, RFC 5322. That's something we do automatically within Realvolve, so it's not a big deal. Basically, it's making sure there's some headers in there properly, making sure that the body is set up properly. Whenever emails go out, we check them, but also whenever the email readers, Google, Yahoo, they'll also do some checking. They'll even strip things out, and that's one of the reasons why whenever people have asked, can we send videos in our emails? And the only way to do an actual video is to use an iframe, and iframes are not allowed as part of the RFC. Actually, I think there's another one that actually controls that, but basically viruses can be sent through those iframes and they're just not allowed. So consequently, we don't allow them to go out either. Don't impersonate Gmail. Now, we don't deal with any of that ourselves, but that's one of the regulations that's important that you follow. Basically, that just means that if you're not a Gmail user, not sending it as part of Gmail, don't make it look like you're sending it from Gmail. That was a Google requirement. Set up the DMARC email authentication, and we're going to go through that. So just hold tight there. Basically, the DMARC is a way to authenticate that the person sending the email through your domain is authorized to send on your behalf. So if you're sending from your normal domain, say you're at abcrealty.com and you are sending through your domain through Outlook or Gmail or whatever, if you've got it set up properly, that email is coming from your domain. It knows it's from your domain and it's sending out to somebody else. That somebody else receives it and they say, okay, this looks like it's coming from abcrealty.com. Let's ping it and verify. And it does a verification process. That verification process is part of the challenge. If you're using Realvolve or any other third-party application, you could be using there's other email providers out there that send out mass emails and stuff like that. Same thing. All of this applies to them as well. So we're going to go through that DMARC authentication process today and actually show you kind of the step-by-steps on what it can do up to the point that I can, because there is a setup piece on your side that is something that maybe you need to have a technical person, your tech guru on your end, to look at your DNS information. For direct mail, the domain in the sender's header has to be there. It has to be aligned with the SPF domain. Again, a lot of technical jargon, but there's some header information that has to be in there. And I'll show you about that. For subscribed messages, where you're sending out like newsletters or marketing content, if they've subscribed to it, they need to have a one-click unsubscribe. And I'll show you how that's done and include it clearly, visibly as an unsubscribe unsubscribe link in the message body. So making sure all that's, so those are the requirements. Those are the things that Google said, hey, you need to make sure that this is all set up, because people are tired of getting spammed. They're tired of getting emails that look like somebody that aren't, and consequently it's costing billions of dollars to deal with all of these fake people sending out things trying to get you to buy property in South Africa or whatever. Hopefully you're not doing any of that. And I mean, that's just one of the things that you need to make sure of, as well as anytime you're getting emails from somebody, if there's any kind of attachment and any kind of link, make sure you know who the person is and that you're expecting it. If you're not, be very cautious before you open up anything, before you go to any link, because in a split second, somebody can have access to your information if you're not protected. And there's a lot of virus protection, there's a lot of email protection, browser protection that's out there that can help you. Definitely take a look at that. Get with your tech person, and maybe something that they already have built in. You don't have to worry about it, but it's still something to be on your mind. I want to make sure you guys are safe. So the one caveat to this is, although most of these requirements apply to all senders, the last three in the list, the DMARC record, the alignment, the one click, and unsubscribe, those are things that only apply if you're sending 5,000 messages per day. So within Realvolve, we really don't want you to be doing that anyway, so it's not a big deal. So some of these things aren't fully necessary, but good practice. But you might as well do the setup anyway. You're going to get the rest of these automatically. It's just a matter of making sure that you're not sending a lot of unwanted messages and getting spam, honestly. So I'm going to let me copy this, copy a link address into the chat. And for those that are watching this on video, if you look in the description, you will see this link. Actually, we may change this link. What I did is I went ahead and created a Google form that you can fill this out. And we're going to go through this process. You just click on the link, it'll open it up. You guys can put in your information. There's really basically just two pieces of information that we really need to know. The rest of it is quasi important, just because of the way the formatted message will come back, and I'm going to describe that as well. So if you click on that link, if you have your browser open, you can we'll go through this later. If you want to do it while we're online, you can certainly do that as well. So back to this. So whenever you open up that link, the first thing it's going to ask you is, which domain name server are you using? So this may be something you don't even know. Quite possibly somebody else set up your website. Maybe you're part of a company website. It doesn't necessarily matter. You can choose the I'm not sure option. If you know, and it's not one of these are the common ones. There's a huge long list. We didn't want to include the entire list, but these are the major ones: GoDaddy, Cloudflare, just Google itself is a DNS. If you know which one it is, pick it. If you don't know, you can just choose I'm not sure. It's not a big deal. But what will happen is based off of your selection here, whenever we are putting it in, or if it's another option, you're going to receive an email. And in that email, it's going to have some formatted information. And depending on what flavor of DNS server you actually have, you will get a variation of the message that's more correct for your particular domain name server. So if you don't know it, choose I'm not sure. If you do know it, pick it. And if it's not in the pick list, just type it in. No big deal. Okay, so that's the one thing. The next part of this, which is probably the most important part, is your domain. So the question is what the heck is a domain? Well, whenever you go to your website, whatever it is, if it's www.abcrealty.com, in this case, it shows an example, janedoe@example.com. Your domain is this part, the example.com or the abcrealty.com, kellerwilliams.com, remax.com, coldwellbanker.com, whatever your brand is. If you are emailing, if that is your email, because there are changes that have to be made, we may need to work with your franchise. So it may be something that we have to do some double take on based off of what I'm going here. But most people have their own domain that they're actually sending out of. So definitely put that in. Once you put that in, you'll click on, actually there's one more part. Actually, I should have updated this because I added one more piece of this. The next question in here is actually who to send my instructions to. So, if you've got a techie person that you want these instructions done by, just give us their email address. It'll go out to them, no big deal. If you want to put your email in there, put your email in there, and we will send it to you. You can forward it to your tech guy if you want to do that. So it's just some information that we're going to email you on what you need to do for your DNS server. So 3 pieces of information: your domain server name, if you know it, what your domain is, and then who do we send the instructions to. And if it's you, it's going to be the same domain typically as what you're putting in here, but we wanted to give you guys the ability to send it to somebody else. No big deal. Once you do that, you hit the submit button, and it will send an email with this type of information in there. So I put in that previous one here, we put in mark at abcrealty.com. So we just put in the abcrealty.com here. What happens is the authentication process that we go through will create a unique and personalized information that goes specifically to you. You'll get this as an email and a link to a screen similar to this, where there are 4 pieces of information. There are 3 CNAME entries and 1 TXT entry. The CNAME is information about the authentication name that will be used to identify, is this person allowed to send this message? It's coming from us. It's going to somebody else. Whenever that somebody else receives it, they're going to ping back our server, actually your server, to see if what this key is, and if this key matches what we're sending, then everything is hunky-dory. Everything's good. If it's not, there'll be a problem. And that's kind of where this all these rules are important, because if somebody else tries to send an email using our server or using your email, if they're not authenticated this way, their email won't be sent to whomever. And it's important to protect your people as much as it is just protect you as well. Any questions on that? I know I'm going through a lot of technical stuff here. Okay. Break in if you have any questions. So 4 pieces of information: the host information, and then the value that's going to be put into this. So I'm going to show you an example here of what it's kind of going to look like. This is the part that is kind of unknown on my behalf because I don't know what your server is, whether it's your domain name server. I don't know if it's Google, if it's GoDaddy, or whomever. But once you log into your domain server, your DNS information, there'll be a list of these types of things. And in here, actually, let me go back one step here. I said you were going to get something that looked like this. Basically, you're going to get an email, or your tech guy will get an email that'll say something about Twilio SendGrid. That's the provider that we use to send out emails. We're using SendGrid, which is a developer third-party software that allows us to send messages. Huge number. It's a huge company. Most people send out of SendGrid, even if they don't tell you. But basically, you're going to get an email from them. It says view the DNS record information. Whenever you click on that, it will then show you that email, a link. Actually, it'll show you a website. It'll take you to the website from that email with this information. This is the same information I was just showing you with the host and the data that's inside that. Your job, or your techie's job, is to take this information and put it into your DNS. This is something we can't do. We're unable physically to do it. This is something that your ISP, your tech guy, your whomever will have to do that. If you control your own DNS, you know how to do this. You've probably done it for other things. Great. It's not a big deal. It's just some record information, and you type it in. Once you've put that into your DNS, your domain name server, you'll click on the I'm done. And whenever you click on I'm done, it will go out and it'll do some verifications. Now, going back to the entry piece, this is kind of an example of what you might see. There might be some option that says add a record, or whatever. It'll be show you a big long list of other settings, and then there'll be an option in there to put all of these pieces of information in there. So one of the things, and I'm just showing the example for this bottom one, this TXT piece. I'm showing this in my flavor because it is a little bit different, and I want to show this to you. So the value here should be _dmark.abcrealty.com in the text type, and then this is the value. So whenever I'm entering this, the text type, we'll put in text. In your DNS, you may need to type in the entire thing, _dmark.realvolve.com. In ours, all we had to do was just put in the first part because it knew that it needed to be .realvolve.com. So the name part of it could be the entire string, the entire dmark.realvolve.com in our case, could be dmark.abcrealty.com. But as we're entering it in ours, it actually shows what the value is going to be in here. So you can tell if you see some double information in there, like dmark.realvolve.com, that would be inaccurate. You're just putting in the dmark. Your tech guy would probably know how to do this. If this looks totally foreign to you and you don't want to mess with it, there are people that will probably do this for you on your side. You just got to find whoever that is. So you're putting in the name and then the contents, the value. This is the second that other column. So if we look here, it's the V dmark1 P equals none. Right here, V DMARC1, P equals none. Just copy, paste it in there, and you're good to go. Now, I'm going to show you a link. There's a link here that you can go to if you wanted to do any kind of validation. The P none basically means we're not really doing any kind of major validation or dealing with it after that. There's some limits that you can set. We're just setting it to none. That's all it's required. You can set it to there's 3 different choices: none, ignore. I forget what they actually are. Well, it's unimportant actually. But one of the things that you can do is if you wanted to get a free account through the Valamail, this is a product. They work with SendGrid, and you can sign up for a free account at the valamail.com/products/monitor. Set up a free account, and then if you're going to do that, they'll also have you put in the rest of this piece inside of this, and that basically just allows them to also monitor your DMARC information and making sure that somebody isn't trying to send stuff through you, and you can do some validation and stuff. It just is an extra catch if you want to do that. It's not required. You don't have to, but it is one more step that you can do for additional protection. Once you've got all that, you hit submit, and then what it'll do is it'll put it in. And once you do the process, I don't know if it actually shows you this, but basically what you're going to do is get a verified status on everything. The DMARC, I don't know that it ever actually shows verified because it is optional, but I needed to double check that on ours. Right now, it has been verified, but at the time that I did this, I don't know that it had actually been verified or not. And it may not actually show anything on there. But basically, I blurred out some of the numbers because those are our numbers. Don't want you to use our numbers at all. But basically, whatever's in your email is what you're gonna put in. Ultimately, if you clicked on that save button and it comes back with any kind of errors, it'll actually show you, hey, we tried to communicate with your server. Your server gave us a response, but it wasn't what we expected. And it will tell you kind of some information about what it got back or what it didn't get back, and making sure that it's entered. You'd have to go back into your server, make sure you do the things that need to be done. And again, it could be something related to like this, where I didn't need to put in the .realvolve. If I would have put in dmarc.realvolve.com like the text actually shows in here, then it would have errored out here and not shown verified. Actually, would have errored out here and not shown anything. But once you enter it the way it's supposed to be, then it should come back and show you that it worked. You should get some kind of message like this where it says it worked whenever you do the authentication from that email that we send you. A lot of stuff happening there. But it's so important that you guys do this so that whenever you send out emails through Realvolve, and you'll probably need to do this if you're using MailChimp or some of the other ones, there's some setups they'll have you do the exact same thing. It's something that is now required. As of February, this is something that is quasi-required. It's actually not fully enforced until June of this year. So you still have a little bit of time. It'll throw an error. It'll give you an error saying, hey, this hasn't been authenticated, but it'll still let it go through until June, and then it'll stop sending it altogether. So your job at this point is just to get the it worked, you or your techie. going back to that validator, if you do set up that validator, you get the free account, you put in that extra piece into the domain server, you check in there, you should see something like this. Email compliance, you are compliant, congratulations, all your services are meeting the email compliance guidelines. And these are the guidelines that they're talking about through Google, through Yahoo. I'm sure others will do that as well. Okay. Now then. So once that is set up, once that piece is done, you're in compliance, this is what happens. And this is what's always happened in the background anyway. We had it set up to be able to do this. It's just, it wasn't required. So because it wasn't required, you know, it wasn't a big deal, but now it's required and we have to make sure. Whenever you're setting up a template in Realvolve's template editor, there is an option here called email marketing. Now, you can do email transactional. Transactional is a special case where it does not include the unsubscribe. But anytime you're sending out email to anybody that is marketing type material, if it should have an unsubscribe to it, make sure that you've selected it as email marketing. The reason is if you're sending out transactional, which is valid, but you want to make sure that the person at the other end knows that you're going to be sending them stuff and they are accepting that, because if they send that email to spam, that's a big tick, because number one, you weren't in compliant. You weren't sending a compliant email that needed an unsubscribe, and they're thinking that it is spam and you shouldn't have been sending it. So that's a big no-no. But in this case, anything that you send out using the email marketing via option will send out with the unsubscribe piece built in. So create your email. And this was just to show you what it kind of looked like. I did a DMARC test, basic merge fields, and this is a test. No big deal there. What I then did was I went into Realvolve. I sent an email as Joe Agent to myself, that message, testing marketing email. And because it was coming from info@realvolve.com, it shows the correct stuff. Whenever you get authenticated, it will no longer send have the piece saying sent via Realvolve. It will just say info at, or it'll say whatever your email address is. But you will see that it has the one-click unsubscribe option right here, and it'll be tagged with unsubscribe. That tells you that the email is set up right. I know there's times when you I really don't want them to unsubscribe, but that is the law, law of the land anyway. And you have to make sure that is there. What we do actually do is down here at the bottom, with it being a marketing send via marketing template, it automatically adds this piece down here, which is unsubscribe from this list or manage the email preferences. And I didn't click on this, but basically what this does is this takes you to a screen where you can, actually this one takes you to a screen where you can turn on or turn off subscriptions to the marketing message. But this one right here is basically just a one-click unsubscribe. You just click on it and it unsubscribes you. So that's the rules of what's required now, as far as making sure that that's in there. Now, what we do behind the scenes is quite a bit more for you. So whenever you come to this message, if this was in Gmail, I went over here to the little menu button, and I chose to see or view original, I think it is, or there's an option there to view the original message, the actual text portion of the message. And what that does is that opens up kind of the behind the scenes things about what's in this. And I just did this last night just to make sure everything was working well. But you're going to get a message ID and some stuff. No big deal. This is just an ID, but it will say who it's from. You'll see your email address, who it's to. That was my email address. The subject, no big deal. What's important is that you see these SPF, it passed. And this is the IP address, the DKIM pass, and the domain at Realvolve. So these are the things that in those original rules that I was telling you about. These are some of the things that are important that meet the rule requirements. Download original, that's what it is. So if you click on download original on that, it'll show you even more information. Basically down here at the bottom, there's a couple different pieces of information. This is the actual behind the scenes, what you guys don't normally look at as part of an email. You just think it's all magic. This is all the technical stuff behind the scenes that actually works. But this is showing you all the information about the authentication, about that it is permitted, and that everything's good. So ultimately, this is what you want to get to. And while you don't necessarily need to see all this, I wanted to show you that behind the scenes, we're actually doing it for you. The DKM signature is there. There's a signature of information that is relevant. The seal that's on there. These are all things that help identify that this is coming from a person that's authorized to send through this mail server. Any questions with that? I know there's a lot of stuff I went through there.
Hey, Mark, I have a question about the unsubscribe. If they unsubscribe, does that in any way affect the ability to do a transactional email later?
No. We keep those as separate. Hearing an echo there. Thank you. We keep those as separate lists, basically. So there is a marketing list, there's a transactional list. So if they unsubscribe from the marketing list, they'll still get the transactional. If they go in and mark the entire thing spam and unsubscribe from all lists, then it could stop it. But normally those are two separate lists and you don't have to worry about it. Anything else? All right. Plenty of time. So one of the things, we send a lot of emails. This is a 30-day, we almost 1 million emails. Delivered, opened. The thing that's important here is our spam reports, our bounces, making sure those are within compliance range, and we're well below it. We make sure that everything is in. Called mailtester.com, mail-tester.com. And you can go out there. What you can do, there's basically a 4-step process. They're going to give you an email address. It'll be displayed on that page, and we're going to go through this. You can create a sample Realvolve contact and paste that email address into that contact record. Send your email, whatever it is, maybe it's a newsletter or whatever, send it to that email address that they provide on this website. And then once you go back to that website, there'll be a button that says click to check your score. And so let's go through that process. So whenever you go to the site, mail-checker or mail-tester.com, it's going to come up with something like this, and it's going to give you a whacked out type of email address. All you got to do is copy that. You can click on the little copy icon, copy that, and create a new contact record inside of Realvolve. So I created one called mail tester or email tester. And then in the email section here, I just pasted in that email address that it provided. Once I got that in there, I click on the little send email, and then it comes up, and then load in the template that you're wanting to check. Okay, in this case, I just loaded up an old newsletter that we had, and it has all the contents and stuff in there with photos and boxes and texts and all that kind of stuff in there. But it's sending it to that email tester email address that we wanted to send to. Click on send the message, and then we come back and you click on this then check your score. At that point, whenever you do that, it will start checking its mailbox. It'll check to see that message that you just sent to it. Once it receives that message, and it may take a second or two for it to actually get there, but once it gets there, it'll start doing a little progressive little boat rowing from one place to another, saying that it's busy. It's checking the process. And then at the end of that process, it's going to give you a score. This score is out of 10, and as an example, that newsletter piece that I did got an 8.9 out of 10, which is fully acceptable. If it's below 6, even 7-ish, you really need to look at what wording and stuff you've got in your message. Maybe there's other things that we need to deal with, but a lot of spamminess in there if you've got anything in those ranges or below. So you got to be really careful. Basically, it's going to show you this, and then it'll show you a bunch of little check boxes, either green check boxes or nick points, where they're actually taking a point or two away. And I wanted to kind of show you a couple of these. So like this, one of the checks is through Spam Assassin thinks you can improve. It's got a negative score of 0.6. So it's just a fraction, but it's basically saying the DKM is signed, making sure that that it is signed. This rule automatically applies. And basically what this is doing is this is saying, hey, I'm going to check this. I'm going to go ahead and take out the point first, but then it comes back and says, oh, hey, it is valid. So we're going to put it back in. So the negative is canceled out with the valid. It also adds some additional scoring pieces there, subtracts some scoring pieces here. Any of these things like this, HTML font color similar to the background. So what that means is somewhere in there, I have maybe white text on white background. And why is that important? Well, it would appear you're trying to hide something, some text or something in there. And it may be totally, it's just, it was white and you just didn't see it. And so you can go in there, check, make sure any kind of background colors are not white, or that the font color is white. or is something other than white, and correct it. So it's giving you some clues as to what you can do. HTML included in the message, no worry, that's expected. If you're sending HTML emails, here it's adding some things back in, in and outs, whatever. So the ultimate accumulation is the negative 0.6. It's a fraction of a point, but some things that you can definitely look at to maybe make things better for you. The thing that's probably most important that this will tell us is, are you properly authenticated? And this is where it's checking those SPF records, those DKIM signature information, the DMARC, those three things that Google's saying has to be done. Those are all in compliance. And with them being compliant, this is, acceptable, and it will get through to the person that you intend to send it to. If you don't have these, this will be an X or something, and then that's a bad thing. You need to get in compliance. So if you did this right now, you weren't in compliance, this is going to be something other than a green check. Let's go live. I pretty much did everything. This was showing the actual test itself, all the results and stuff, no broken links. You're not on block list. Now, one of the things that you possibly, if you've sent spam before, somebody's marked you as spam, you might see some things in here. And what you can do is go to these sites and request a validation or to be removed. They will work with you on getting you lined out. So definitely go through those. If any of these if you're listed in any of these, this one here is one that says host karma. I'm not sure why I'm in that, but I'll probably check that one out. Hi, Mark. When you upload the video, could you include the slide deck? Thank you. Yes, I will. I will include the slide deck on this one, definitely. So that's pretty much that. The thing that I wanted to make sure everybody got to was making sure that you can get to this, fill this out, hit submit. Once you submit, it will send us notification. You'll then, it may take a few hours or a day to get everybody entered, but you'll receive that email to whoever you apply that email address to down here. And then questions. That's pretty much, you should be good.
I have another question, Mark. Our team is part of Windermere Real Estate up in Seattle.
That's pretty much.
And all of our emails are routed through that. I have asked IT at Windermere to add DKIM and SPF records to the DNS, and they refuse. They said they can't do that. And their whole email system is managed in the Microsoft Exchange cloud system. Any recommendations on how that could be dealt with?
If they're refused, you need to probably send them. Now, it's possible that they've already, well, actually, they won't have our stuff. I would still send them that information and say, because of this rule change, I have to have it. And if not, about the only thing you could do would be to get your own subdomain or your own domain and start going and using it instead of theirs, which I have said in many cases, you shouldn't be reliant on your
the
franchise,
rules with Windermere that you have
because
to use their domain
what if you
name
change
as
franchises?
an agent. So
Not
it's a
that I'm
conundrum.
advising
You need to probably press.
that's always a challenge. Well, you need to probably press that and say, if this is the rule, you have to help me because this won't work because of Google's new compliance rules. That they need, and you can't be the only one having this issue unless nobody else is using a third party. They're only using Outlook, which would be a shame too. But definitely, if we need to get with their techs, we can certainly do that, and work with them if there's some. We have some ability to say, instead of us giving you some of those numbers, we have some ways of backing in those numbers and creating them a little differently in an advanced area where if they want to give us some numbers that we can use, I think we can put those in there, and it would validate it the same.
And didn't happen.
So we might.
But I'll give it another shot. Thank you.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, absolutely. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. Again, this is an important one. I appreciate you spending the time here and asking questions and stuff. If you have other questions, certainly reach out. I'll be happy to answer whatever we have questions on and see if we can help you get this done. Especially, you need to make sure it gets done before that June of 2024 this year, so that emails do not get blocked, because they will stop.
This is only for in excess of 5,000 emails
are not
per
dealt
day,
with,
right?
and then that just becomes a huge challenge for you.
Part of it is.
All right, guys, have a great week.
Part of it is you have to do it anyway for some of the compliance. You might do some checking.
Part of it is.
Actually, I'll put some additional links in our video and stuff.
Anyway,
there are some other
compliance. You might do some checking to do. Actually, I'll put some additional links in our video and stuff. There are some other things that you can. Still getting echo here. Sorry. Okay, there we go. There are a lot of links out there for a lot of background information, what is required and what's suggested, but the main requirement is it needs to be authenticated, and if it's not authenticated, it's not going to send. So while actually this part right here, although most of these are required to apply to all senders, the last three, the DMARC record, the alignment, and the one-click unsubscribe, we do the one-click unsubscribe anyway. The alignment and the DMARC are record things. Those are for the 5,000, but the SPF and some of the other ones are there as well, and those are part of that DNS as well. So I don't know why they would. I really don't understand why they're saying these are required only on 5,000, where the other parts you're doing the same thing. So it doesn't really make sense to me. But we do all this for you within Realvolve, except we can't update the DNS stuff for you. But you have to ensure that is in there. The SPF and the authentication piece has to be done, whether it's 5,000 or not, from my understanding. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week. If you have any requests for training, certainly reach out, mark@realvolve.com. Be happy to go over some things that are pertinent to you. Have a great day. Bye.